morning, everybody. 16th of March. And I have to stop talking here in a minute because I'm going to be filming something. It's like just some, I don't know, some sort of a display of a fighter jet, an older fighter jet. And I don't want anybody to know I'm actually filming. I'm not supposed to be, maybe I'm not supposed to be filming right around here. So I'll just carry this thing. Nobody will know it's a camera, and I'll film this fighter jet here. I hope that came out all right. It's, this is like an entrance to a military base around here. There's a lot of little areas, you know. This is it's the area where the university, where this branch of the university is at. And of course it's in a military district. There's barracks and a lot of military housing and all that around here, so. But foreigners are not allowed to even go into these areas. So, and I'm hoping it's okay to film around here, just walking on the streets. I don't want to, get into any kind of trouble anyway about living in my host country. So I'm not even going to walk over to the fence and try to show anything that's inside or anything like that. So now that's the university over there. That's the grounds anywhere where the university is at. Oh, here comes a military truck. I'm just going to be piecing a little parts of the clips together here at the beginning, then I'll get into the news, and maybe I'll make that as a separate video. I'm not too sure. Always depends on time. So, a little bit of time for editing. I have a little bit more time today. So anyway, but and about language classes, I was still going to make a part 2, or was it part 3 by now? I don't know. And I'm giving the lady a lot more time, the one who's in charge of the language department side, giving her more time to put together some sort of a presentation. I think maybe she didn't want to be interviewed. That's her personal choice. And maybe the school didn't want me to be doing it the way that I was just going to do it. I just wanted to spend like 5 minutes with her and ask about prices and things like that for some of you that are interested in coming here. There are some, like I mentioned, there are some YouTube vloggers that are in Russia that actually came to this school and learned Russian, because coming here to the University of Baranovichi, it's actually cheaper, less expensive, and very good quality compared to any other place that you can learn Russian over in a Russian-speaking area. Well, here I'm talking about Russian-speaking area, but here's the entrance on this side of the university grounds, but believe it or not, it's written in Belarusian, so so here I'm talking about the Russian language and then showing you something in Belarusian. And it's a little bit confusing in Belarus because a lot of things are in Belarusian. So I don't know what to say about that. Here's probably a little bit more modern traveling bus, city bus. as I say, buses like these, they're made on the street that I live in, and will be living in Minsk. And I'm hoping, and I was thinking I would be moving there in about one week, but it'll take a little bit longer than that. So I'm looking at possibly moving to Minsk, and it won't be completely. I still have a lot of things that are here stored in a garage. How to get that stuff up there is going to be another story, but I'm looking at maybe, if I'm lucky, maybe about after the first week of April. You know, it always takes a lot more time than you think. If I was in charge of doing everything, it would be done, of course, a lot quicker. But everybody else, you know, somebody gets sick for a week, some worker, you know, this and that and the other thing, some sort of a regulation says that you have to do this first before you can do that, and little things. And you know, as far as space is available, like we have things to do in the bedroom, putting up building the bed. It's quite complicated, has drawers underneath and all that sort of thing. And before we can do that, we have to move the pieces of living room furniture that are in the bedroom, and that can't be done until in the bedroom the wallpaper gets put up. And there's other few things like floorboards and things like that. Essentially the bedroom's mostly done, but anyway, it's not that interesting. Other few things I should be talking about, but right now I'm going into this shop here, and I believe it's a Russian. Svetofor is what it's called. I think the branch is based in Russia. They have these in Minsk as well, but I'm just going to walk through. Some things are quite inexpensive. It's sort of a discount place, so I'll show you now. Puszka. In German and in Russian. Ice cream is really cheap. It's like 10 cents. Well, maybe 15 or something like that. Russian ice cream is actually quite good, to be honest with you. It's quite good. I think over here is pelmeni. Cappuccino. What is this? 3 rubles. That's about I don't know, probably less than $2. Seems. Frozen things. Meat, very cheap here. Very cheap. Very nice quality and very cheap meat. Actually, it's refrigerated things here. Ham. Guess that's about $4 or something. I guess it's mayonnaise, I think. Yeah, mayonnaise. That's three, yeah, about maybe $4. How much is it in weight? 1 kilogram. Very heavy. I think this is oil, what you could not get for certain periods of time in Europe. 21 rubles. That's what, well, I don't know, $8 for 5 liters of oil, I guess. So you know, here's oatmeal, 87 cents. That's whatever that is. I don't know. Very cheap. 25 cents. 28 cents for 500 grams of oatmeal. So you see prices are, for the most part, very cheap over here. Bunch of biscuits and things. Of course, I do buy some of these. That looks kind of good. Some nice, good cookies. Sorry to be going so fast. And then just, they don't have much for juices here. All different types of sunflower seeds. Beer, not such a bad price. Different prices here. Half-liter bottles of beer. One and a half liter bottles of beer on the wall. Tell you what, this water is excellent, even infused with some minerals or something. Actually, I would be wanting to buy this right now. Matter of fact, this one is the one I was buying. It's, I guess, I don't know, like, I don't know, maybe around 50 cents or something like that. For 2 liters, 2 liter bottle, 50 cents. There's some wines here. Anyway, that's most of everything. I'll get around to showing you other things in a minute. Well, it's still the 16th of March, 2023, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to put this part of the video onto the next, the part that I did a little bit earlier or not. Anyway, just showing you this airplane. I'm still in this branch of the university and military type district area. So it's an old Soviet airplane. It's like a lot of old cars. It looks a lot better than a lot of the new models now anyway. But anyhow, I should be now getting into talking about the news. So mostly I'm kind of tongue-tied today for some reason. Hope you can see me. The light is in the back of me, so we have a lot of sunshine coming. So this is a nice view, probably silhouetted with the sunlight in the background. So mostly what I'm going to be talking about today is this financial, I don't know if you call it a collapse or a scandal. According to Kim Iverson, she always has a lot of good information. A lot of this is, maybe, like I said, according to her, I think it's just a theory that she has. A lot of it was sort of a, how do you say that? You always get tongue-tied when you have the camera on. You can't think of the right words. Controlled collapse, I guess, for lack of better terms. I guess that's what I'll say. And most of it was, she believes is or at least she's been told, and actually a lot of the evidence points out that it was also mostly to bring down the cryptocurrencies. And because there was a first collapse before all that, before the, gosh, it's windy. I can't hold these pages. Maybe I have to face into the sun because the wind is blowing the other direction. So there was this other bank called Silvergate that went down first. I believe that one was in New York. That was the biggest cryptocurrency bank, and that was brought down, and we didn't hear so much about that. But it was, as I say, the biggest cryptocurrency bank. And then you heard about this SVB, which is, mostly a tech bank, but also has a lot of crypto exposure. And that was what she said is the new startup crypto companies mostly were all in SVB. And then right after SVB, the Silicon Valley banks collapsed. There was another bank that went down, and that was Silvergate was the biggest cryptocurrency bank. The Signature Bank, all of these have a S in them, so it's kind of can get you a little bit. Signature, Silvergate, Silicon Valley. So anyway, it was Signature Bank, and that was from New York. And that was the second biggest cryptocurrency bank. And that one collapsed afterwards as well. So this is a lot of the crypto, the place where the people are doing their transactions with cryptocurrency. So like when you buy, I guess you use that bank, and when you, sell it to get US dollars, then you get it sent to that bank, or at least that's an intermediary bank. It's sort of like, I guess when I was living in the Caribbean, if you do any transactions in Europe, it has to go through banks in the UK. I think it was Lloyd's of London, and maybe there was another one. And then if you do any transactions, buy anything like from the USA, it has to go through some US bank. Even though those banks in the Caribbean, by law, they are governed far more strict than the banks in the UK or the United States. So they have to comply with regulations much more. If that doesn't sound familiar, how the US works everything. The laws are always created for somebody else, but not for the United States to follow. So you can get away with a lot more being a US bank than you can being a bank in some of these other countries, maybe even France or Russia or anything like that. You have to comply with the laws. But the US banks, the UK banks, they don't have to go with the laws. They can, do whatever they want to. And that's the honest truth, and you know that, because I've figured that out when our money sort of disappeared from the UK. We sent something, we were buying something, I believe, in Germany, and then our money was gone. Our money, it just was gone, it just disappeared. And what we had to do was contact it was like a banking police based in Frankfurt, and they had to track down our money. And of course they didn't tell us what, but they told us, yeah, the money disappeared, and we had a record that we actually had spent this money and that it never got to the destination where it was supposed to go. And somehow there was some fishiness. Somebody's trying to steal our money, a bank, or banks, whatever, in the UK. And of course, luckily we got our money back. But you never know what's going to be happening in the future. So anyway, there's a lot of these people in banks that are stealing money as well. I can't remember how much our transaction was worth. I don't think it was huge, but it's not like we have huge money anyway. But that's what it's all about. And I was watching Redacted, and they were talking a lot about some of this information about United States money and currency and whatnot. And let's see what it says. It said the total money supply in the United States, and we're not talking about physical money, we're talking about all different types of money, if you call it money when it doesn't even exist in a physical form, but the existing money, electronic or otherwise, is $21.27 trillion. And since COVID, that's when most all of this money came into being. And since the COVID time, they have created more money, physical as well as, mostly probably electronic. They've created more money than has ever existed in all of US history. And this is just since the COVID time. So you're wondering how, what we call inflation, prices going up. You wonder how that started. Well, there's your answer right there. Because in truth, as I said in the last video, inflation is nothing more than increasing the money supply. And I'm not a financial expert, but that's what inflation is inflating the money supply. It's not prices going up, but like prices going up is a symptom of inflation. So, yeah. But what money really exists, real physical money. You talked about paper money and coins. According to the Federal Reserve, and now this is coming from the United States Federal Reserve, the existence of real physical money is 53 billion, and apparently that's a little less than 2% of which money, including the electronic money, actually exists. And so all the rest of that is electronic money, and it's fake money. And and since this collapse, I have to add, Bitcoin. The value of Bitcoin has gone up. It didn't go down, it went up. So maybe that was another fallacy. Just like the Russian sanctions was supposed to, collapse Russia and made Russia, now more financially sound, and it made the West actually weaker. So maybe that was a consequence. Makes you really wonder what their game is, the United States or the establishment from everywhere. But Clayton Morris was stating, which is very true, is, the United States and a lot of the establishment countries such as the UK, and I believe they were even doing it in India, but I guess they scrapped it maybe in India. They're trying to go to digital currency and get rid of physical cash. And when you talk about the fact that less than 2% of US money that is actually being used to buy and sell, less than 2% is actually real physical money, and all the rest is just electronic money. He was stating, which is very true, as I said, that we're already almost there to having digital currencies. And everybody's worried about getting switched to digital currencies when, in fact, we're practically already there, which is very shocking when you think about it. And so a lot of things are going to be done not with physical cash, it's going to be done with a card. And which is strange, you come over here even to Belarus, and you can pay with a card with most everything. Even when you get something, say for example, when I was just in this little store, and say you want an ice cream cone, in US money, it costs, say, 10 cents or 12 cents. It was like that when I was a little kid. You can get a ice cream cone or something like that for 10 cents. But here, that was it's 10 cents. 10 or 12 cents or whatever. And but you can pay with a card. Pay something like 10 cents with a card. I don't know. To me, that sounds sort of like I would never want to do that. I'd have a couple change, get rid of your change or something like that. But that's how that is. And it's I don't know if you can say that it's getting more, closer here to that sort of a thing than it is, in other places. I'm seeing a lot of, I don't know if she's tall, she's got high heels on, but seeing a lot of kind of what looks like taller, slender ladies today. At least they seem to be taller than me, and maybe with shoes on like that, high heels or who knows what. But let's see what else I have to say here. There was just one fact, just a small fact I just want to throw in here, that the, here comes some soldiers walking kind of in formation, just 3 of them. But what I was going to say is the UK has given, what was it, 20 million pounds to the BBC to fight Russian disinformation. Right. Okay, they went the other way. I was worried they're going to hear me speaking English, and I was trying to keep my mouth shut because I don't know. Not that anything was going to happen. But 20 million British pounds, 20 million to fight Russian disinformation. And you know what that means? It means to create Russian disinformation. And you know that the UK, for the most part, a lot of the people there, I'm not going to say all people, of course, but and it's not really the people's by choice, but they're given a huge amount of disinformation about Russia anyway. So you have a lot of people, and I met them, they have a seething hatred, a lot of Brits. And like again, I'm not blaming them for that, but they have a seething hatred of Russia, of everything Russian. And getting back to, something about disinformation and all that, and and being, I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but just mention it, that, you're talking about like this Malaysian Airlines that Putin shot down, and supposedly he went there and killed those people with his bare hands, when this thing was shot down. And of course, they're saying that Russia shot it down, and then they have the black box. It was recovered actually by the people, the soldiers of Donetsk, and they gave it to Russia, and Russia gave it to Malaysia because it was their jetliner to have it looked at, and Malaysia sent it to Den Haag in Holland, to open this, as evidence to see who actually shot down this Malaysian jet airliner. And Den Haag gave it to Great Britain. And of course, Great Britain, because I think it's like, who has the technology to open up and accurately read what's on these airliner black boxes to find out actually what happens, during a flight? And maybe a lot of these countries didn't have it. I believe maybe Russia probably has that capability, but they wanted to be fair and not open that up, break the seal, to show that they did not shoot this plane down. Anyway, it got to the UK, and of course they opened it up, and they won't disclose the information. And there's supposed to be some sort of a law that says any nation that is somehow connected, to this, such as Malaysia and Ukraine, because it was shot down in Ukraine, and I don't know, maybe the UK and Holland or whoever. Maybe it has something to do with what the passengers on this airplane were. Who had passengers on this plane. They have some sort of authority to say, oh, we're not going to release this information. So, and since it was in Ukraine, and I believe it was Ukraine that says not to release the information on, that will lead to telling everybody who shot that plane down. So, that's the story I heard. And it's probably accurate, at least far more accurate than Russia did it, and not show any evidence from that black box. And it's very similar to the Skripal case, the poisoning, and I think it was with these two supposedly Russian tourists that were there going to see the cathedral, that they're supposed to have done it. And then it's a very odd thing that nobody is allowed to talk to the Skripals. The British government has disappeared these people. Nobody knows where they are. Nobody's allowed to speak with them. And it's like these, what were these? I forgot their names. These two brothers in the United States that are supposed to be the Boston bombing, the suspects. Nobody's allowed to talk to them. And I mentioned them before. When they have accurate video evidence of the older brother being arrested and put into a police car, and yet the official story is that the younger brother ran over him by accident and killed him in a car. In other words, what you're hearing is it's very, very probable, very probable that he was killed by elements in the United States government, police, who knows what. But anyway, there's video footage, and I even saw that, and where he is completely naked, and it was definitely him. And his aunt, who's a lawyer, identified it as definitely being him, and other people that know him, and they put him in a police car. So that doesn't tell you something. Yeah. So there's that, and then there's the Nord Stream. We have evidence. You have evidence because it was investigated by Sweden and who else? Denmark, I believe. But it was investigated, and the evidence exists. I think Germany was in on this investigation, so they have evidence, and yet they won't release it. So whenever it involves Russia and there's an investigation, even if it's done or not done, the evidence is never allowed. The public will never hear the evidence. And you know that if Russia did it, it would be all over the place. If Russia did something. So it's almost, by default, you're looking like the Russians are angels, and they're not doing anything because they never have any evidence to prove their case, the allegations that they make against Russia. So there's the force of good and the evil, and there's always overwhelming, compelling evidence that the U.S. did things, such as this Nord Stream bombing. Seymour Hersh, you don't have any hard physical evidence necessarily, because guess what? Sweden got it. Sweden took that information, and we're not allowed to see it. Who was it? I think Alexander Makura said the job of Sweden was to go there and to clean up all the evidence. It wasn't to investigate, it was to clean up the crime scene. So let me put this on pause now and go to a different place. I'm more towards the center of the city, or at least walking towards the center of the city here in Baranovichi. And this building right here, this was a Soviet textile factory, I believe. I think they maybe just made cloths and things like that, and then sent to other factories that made the clothing and exported it to other Soviet places, I guess. Not quite sure myself. I don't quite know what this is. I hope it's not some kind of a private place. Well, the door's open. Something important. I got some wire there. Looks like children's play area there. Oh, nice light up there. Look at that. Bronze. Maybe not bronze, just painted to look like bronze. Castle over there. So let me get back to this financial scandal thing. Sorry that I kind of jumped around, but I had seen different news that came out a little bit later after I started kind of writing down some notes here, wanting to, mention things here. So I try to stay on script a little bit. Then maybe my facts won't be wrong. But apparently, the Israelis, they were alerted beforehand, before the collapse of this Silicon Valley bank. So they got their money out. And it's just like I was mentioning this, what's his name, Becker, whatever. The CEO, he took his money out 2 weeks before that, and then a lot of the other high executive people, they were taking their money out in February, liquidating their money, leaving everybody else, the smaller investors, people that had savings, or maybe even some of the big investors, leaving them to lose their money. And then supposedly, as you have been hearing, that Joe Biden supposedly, I have to keep saying that word, supposedly, Joe Biden is supposed to be making sure that these people are going to get their money back, up to and maybe even over 250,000. But the FDIC says, people are insured up to 100,000, but he was saying 250,000 and over that. You never know. I don't know. I don't know about that. But then what about these other banks? This what was it, Silvergate, and I think the other one that collapsed right after Silicon Valley Bank. People are supposed to get their money back. But what about the one that collapsed before? That was I think the big cryptocurrency bank. Those people don't get their money back. There's no announcement for that. And then it makes you really wonder. But a lot of this cryptocurrency, people in cryptocurrency, maybe they're not going to get their money back. I really don't know. The main street, one of the main streets in Baranovichi is just right over there, and this is just right behind first set of buildings. So it's a lot more quiet over here, even though it is basically on the main street, which is quite busy. Let's walk out there. BMW over there, Mercedes. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, the CEO's name was Greg Becker, and he transferred all his money out, 3.6 billion apparently. I don't know if that, did I say that yesterday? But then one problem also, they say, from this SVB bank, you know, even though they knew of the collapse, they knew of the collapse ahead of time, and Kim Iverson said they had a buyer that was going to buy this bank, and they wouldn't let him buy it. So it was going to be saved, but the government did not let it be saved. And that's, I think, one of the main reasons why she said this was a controlled collapse, and they were purposefully trying to, you know, do harm to cryptocurrencies. You know, apparently it didn't work very well. Bitcoin is up. Who knows about the other things? But then a lot of the problems with this bank is that they were trying to appeal to the woke crowd, people that are, you know, showing diversity or something like that. Maybe if you're LBGT, if you're homosexual or something like that, you get preference to getting a loan rather than those that are not. If you're a Republican, obviously you're going to have, you know, less ability to get a loan, or if you're Asian, especially if you're Chinese. So I don't know. I didn't see China as being one of the main, what do they call it? The main entities that were suffering from this collapse of this bank. You know, you heard about Ireland, and I even mentioned Israel, but apparently Israel didn't get it as bad as what they originally said, because a lot of those people got their money out. Maybe there was a lot of Israelis, the little people that didn't get their money out, you know. So if you're homosexual, I guess in the United States or something like that, you get a lot more priority to get what you want, I guess. I guess it's part of being the victim, you know. So you don't, they don't want people to be crying, you know. I don't know, how did that get into the society so badly in America, you know. So, you know, if you're Russian as well, and then you you look at this FTX, a lot of people that lost their money from that one. What is this, Blanken, what was his name? I don't know. This guy with the curly hair, looked like he was kind of a guy that would fit in the Brady Bunch, you know, one of the sons of Mr. Brady or something, you know, this curly brown hair or whatever. But anyway, this guy, and he, none of those people got bailed out. I wonder why they let them, you know, lose their money. Maybe a lot of people got their money out early then too. We just didn't hear about it, you know. And that was a source for, you know, that was a cryptocurrency bank. I guess that maybe is a reason why. But even though there's a lot of Democrats that were involved in that, so that guy, Blankenfein or whatever his name was, he was funding Democrats, you know. So you'd think they would have rescued him. But you hear now, recently, a lot of people in Congress, the United States, they say they are at war with China, you know. And in effect, of course they are, you know. This is I guess you'd call it a soft war. If they had something called the Cold War, you know, you can say that there's a soft war going on right now. And it's not like it's a hot war where they're actually firing missiles or nothing like that. And, you know, they mentioned this stuff that they're at war with China. Isn't that, it's a kind of a bad move, because in a few days, Xi Jinping is going to Moscow to be talking to Russia. When the Congress people are saying they're at war with China, makes you wonder what they're going to be talking about, if that's going to be influencing Xi Jinping to be, you know, and what he's going to be saying to Russia about that. So the Russians are getting a lot more, how do you say, or not Russians, the Chinese are getting a lot more hostile to all this sort of thing here. So. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, if there's a war going on, I don't think that China is going to get physical on this one. It's not like they're going to be shooting the first the first shot. I think if what they're going to be talking about, if you see the philosophy of Vladimir Putin and how things have been going for these past years, as well as the Chinese, they're probably just waiting for, and then they're going to maybe even give a little bit of assistance to the collapse of the dollar, and in light of this these financial scandals and these bank failures and whatnot, you might see a little bit of an acceleration on that. And a lot of military analysts are saying that the United States is in no way, shape, or form capable of going to war against Russia, and they probably know that, even though you got Lindsey Graham, talking tough. But most of these people, I think, in reality, they just like to talk tough, and they probably know that they're just paper tigers, like Lindsey Graham. And most of the world, of course, they would get away from the U.S. dollar as well, but a lot of people are forced to. It's in some ways the only show in town, but it's not necessarily. And a lot of, who was it? An African leader said that, in so many words, told who was it? That the West is not the only show in town. I guess they said that to Macron. When the dollar collapses, that's the only thing that enables the United States to get away with doing what they're doing now, which is anything they want to do, like disobeying any kind of laws or anything, passing out fake money, a few clicks on the keyboard and there's some money for you. They can buy anybody, get anything they want. And then Natalie Morris on Redacted was also talking about these airstrikes that happened, I guess it was in January, that the United States, conducted some airstrikes on Somalia. I didn't hear about this, to be honest with you. I can't look at all news, but anyway, they killed 60 people, and apparently, how many of them? 12 of them were. How many were children? Maybe it was only 6. Let's see if I can find that here in my news here. It was done in late January. If it was anything happened in Israel, of course you'd hear about it even if one person got killed. Those people, if it's in Somalia, they don't even have white skin, and the, Africans, black Africans, they're only a little bit better than Russians, So they might even mention if Russians get killed, and we're also supposed to celebrate when that happens, As they say, like in fighter jets and airplanes coming by. If people staring at me, they heard English, they're probably thinking I'm some kind of a spy. I probably got to get out of here. They're probably going to call the police on me because they heard English and thinking I'm spying on something. Who knows what. Lots of trucks around here making a lot of noise too here. But anyway, this strike where they killed, I guess it was 6 children. I think it was 6 children. Yeah, 6 children. 6 children were killed. I wish this guy had shut his engine off. He just sits there running his engine. I have noise this way and noise that way. I'm hoping y'all can hear me. But anyway, they killed 6 children, and supposedly they were supposed to be, they killed 11 ISIS, but that's obviously not true. And then a lot of these people, the children, I guess they were like around age 8, and what's also reported, if there's children or people, men from the age of 8 and above up to the age of 60, they're automatically called militants, according to the United States. So whenever they do some bombing raid or something like that, and there's somebody that's over 11 years old, they're militants. They call them militants. So things are getting crowded here. And I guess it was ISIS. And you all know that in the past, what was it? Hillary Clinton had said that that Al-Qaeda, this was on video evidence, that Al-Qaeda is an asset of the United States. And she said in audio, and of course the United States, according to even Clayton Morris, according to the United States, ISIS is a proxy military for the United States as well. And I guess a lot of people in the U.S. government have admitted that. So let me see what I said exactly here. And he said that the U.S. has admitted that they fund ISIS. And if you remember back in the not civil war, in the Syrian war, before Russia got involved, ISIS was growing in leaps and bounds. It was taking over more and more and more of Syria, while the U.S. was supposedly bombing ISIS. And there was a lot of reports that they were not bombing ISIS. They were dropping bombs on like industrial areas in Syria, destroying the factories and whatnot, and then sometimes they would blow up a bridge. And anybody living in that area said that ISIS wasn't even there, or that they'd already gone 3 weeks ago. And then you also heard reports, things such as whenever some commander of ISIS was getting wounded, they were medevaced to Israel, and also that the Israelis were making ISIS, their ninja pajamas, their jumpsuits, their black ninja pajamas. They were all made in Israel, and their little flags with Islamic writing on it, all made in Israel. Isn't that incredible? So that kind of tells you something. And then people that were captured by ISIS. Isn't it strange that they were, when they heard the people talking, they were all talking in different accents of British accents, ISIS people, and certainly there were Arabic type peoples there. And isn't it weird also that they're supposed to be the Islamic State, but yet they were destroying Islamic shrines, like Jonah and the whale, the Christianity and Islam, for those of you that don't know, are linked together. And Jesus, of course, there's a book of Jesus which is written in the Quran as well. And Jonah and the whale, Jonah, I guess, came from Syria, and they're just destroying all these Muslim shrines. So does that sound like Muslims to you? Very, very, very strange. What is this telling us? That you really don't know what's going on. They're giving you this fake information, and we all take it as being true. And it's like when you start to go in a lot deeper and look at the real facts, you say, well, they're telling us this, but yet the facts are pointing in a different direction. So I guess that tells you should look at the facts rather than looking at that the U.S. says, oh, these are the bad guys. Anyway, right now, before I get any further, people looking at me, God, I'm tired of people staring at me. This is a memorial here, World War II, for the fallen soldiers. Eternal flame. There was one actually at the university where I was at today, not an eternal flame, but another memorial. And of course, like I said, these things are all over in like Belarus and Russia, and who knows, they probably got rid of them all in the Baltic states, even though those were Baltic people that probably died fighting Nazis at end times. But a lot of the Baltic states, as you know, and Finland, as well as Ukraine, they were on the side of the Nazis, and they're not going to tell you that. They tell you completely different things. And at one point in time, at the very beginning of that time, there was some sort of a cordial relationship between Stalin and Hitler as well. And even though Poland was kind of split, there were pro-Soviet and there were pro-Nazis in Poland in the government. So, trying to look into this and trying to start pointing fingers and say you're the bad guy and you're the bad guy, it's not as simple as you might think it is. So I'm not going to get into that, and I'm not going to say who's who and what's what and all that sort of thing. And depending on who you talk to, you're going to get a different story on all that sort of thing. Like I just was saying, you never know what really is going on. It's just like things going on in Ukraine today. You don't know what's going on. And yeah, and Zelensky. And you know what's going on, like there's billions of dollars being made throughout, from all this conflict in Ukraine right now. And Zelensky himself, I guess, when was that? Around just I think a few months before the ending of the last year, Zelensky had become a billionaire. And they were saying that within like 3 or 4 months that he would be a multi-billionaire, which means having over 2 billion. And that's probably about right now. So Zelensky, you might want to even venture to say that Zelensky has more money than Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, I believe he had 2-point-something billion when he was running for president, and then after he left office he had like 1.2 billion. And of course he's making the money a lot slower, because I think most of his business holdings, he signed over to his his sons. So I don't know if he's making that much money at all at the moment, or anything. Who knows? But Zelensky, he's got the monopoly on the film industry and news and everything, television, everything in television and whatnot in Ukraine, and many, 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 many other businesses. So he's got huge holdings. He's got lots of properties all over the world. Israel and Florida, and I think New York as well. And yeah, give me some money. I want money. I am Zelensky. I am very humble. Zelensky, he reminds me, if you've ever read David Copperfield and Uriah Heep, he's the villain, for the most part in David Copperfield. We're so humble, oh Mr. Macabre, oh Master Copperfield, we are so humble. Anyway, he worked at this place. I was like I think it was David Copperfield was in accounting or something like that, and Uriah Heep was just so humble. He was just kind of a, and David Copperfield does his travels, and by the time he came back, Uriah Heep had taken over the whole company. So that's like Zelensky. He's going around begging and talking to all these leaders in the world. I'm so humble. I need some money. Give me some money. Give me some weapons and money. That's what we need. Money, weapons. And of course, he's getting filthy, filthy rich, and he's a multi-billionaire, of course, now. So what does that tell you? I say no more. That's it. And then I also heard, I think it was, who was it? Maybe it was Alex Cristoforo. He said that, and I might have missed this, but people aren't talking about it. And of course, they're not going to be broadcasting this on the news in the West. But Ursula von der Leyen, apparently, when she went to visit Joe Biden, she thanked him for getting Europe off of a dependence of Russian gas and petroleum. I wonder how did he do that? How did Biden do that? Do you think it had something to do with the Nord Stream? Makes you wonder. So thank you, Biden, for getting us off of, for getting us weaned, not even weaned. Weaning means you gradually get taken off. But anyway, Ursula von der Leyen thanked Joe Biden for getting Europe off of their dependency for Russian gas and oil. So, very fascinating. Somebody should ask her to explain herself, how did that happen? Okay, but anyhow, I'm like walking around Baranovichi. The weather's a little bit better, and I'm just kind of showing you, how things are around here. So before I'm going to be moving to Minsk, and there's few other things I want to do towards this area. I want, again, like I say, I'm closer to Brest. We're in the Brest region, and I want to go to the fortress of Brest before I leave Baranovichi, because it's a much longer journey from Minsk to go to Brest. I also want to go to the castle or palace in Lida, and hopefully that can happen. I also even want to go back to the wolf town that I like so much. Very, very small excursion over there. I like that place anyway. So, I also should mention, I'm not putting this on Rumble. I thought I was able to put this on Rumble because there's some sort of a thing where you can connect it, where when you put it on YouTube, it automatically goes to Rumble, and it doesn't work. And for some odd reason, when I'm trying to download a half-an-hour video onto Rumble, it takes over 2 hours, and then somehow it doesn't work. It somehow shuts off or whatever. And then also, while you're downloading, your phone times out, the screen starts to dim and then it shuts off. Whenever that happens on my phone, it stops downloading onto Rumble. So sorry people, I just don't have the time to sit there for over 2 hours and just keep touching my screen all the time. You film the video for a half an hour or whatever, then you do the editing and all that sort of stuff. And literally, I'd be sitting there for 4 hours just to put a half-an-hour video on Rumble. And I can't do that. And talking about Rumble, I hear that they're banning that in some... Hey, kids, they're banning that in some countries in the European Union. Just like they banned RT and all that. That's another thing about making sure that you hear only what they want you to hear. It's getting sick here, boys. It's getting sick. Anyhow, that's about all I want to say right now. And hopefully I'll be making a little bit more shorter videos with a little bit more information in the future, or maybe more information that what you want to hear. But I'm still, you know, a lot of you want to see the sights, you know, walking around to see what it's like here in this former Soviet country. But you know, if you like it anyway, subscribe if you haven't already. I think sometimes I can put out 2 videos and there's no new subscribers at all. So I don't know how that happens. I'm sure that my videos are not getting to any people that that are interested in this sort of thing. I guess, I don't know, is that shadow banning? I guess that's happening to me. You know, I wouldn't be surprised. But you know, if I want to get more viewership, I guess I'll do it in the future. I'll find different ways. So anyway, until the next time, thanks for watching.